So, we are back, game week 14, after a massive week of Premier League results. We had some huge results at Anfield, Liverpool taking a loss to Leeds, Van Dijk's record completely and utterly over. Brighton, Potter went back to Brighton, what happened? They got absolutely battered. And then we had a huge result on the south coast, Bournemouth 2 up against Spurs, and what happens? They throw it away. Let's get into it. We are going to kick this week off at the Amex Stadium. Brighton, what a result for them. Potter's sides, it's been weird for them. They have this weird way of playing where the shape seems to change a lot. It seems to fuse between a 3-4-3, a 5-3-2. You never really know what's going on. But at the points you had Sterling playing wing back completely cost them in the end. They were getting dominated out wide. Trossard gets an early goal. Then come the 2 own goals. Can you believe that? I mean, Loftus-Cheek and Chalobah, in my opinion, they're not kind of their level of Premier League football, in my opinion. They shouldn't be starting for a top 4 side, that's for sure. And it showed on the weekend. They were absolutely outclassed. And you could see De Zerbi has got Brighton firing for that game. The crowd were on Potter's back. He was getting boos and all sorts. And I'm pretty glad for Brighton. I think they deserved those 3 points, and it was a well-fought victory for them.
Hang on. Who are you?
Brilliant captain.
Tom, quick welcome to the Spectator team. Welcome to see the boys. What was your opinions on the Chelsea-Brighton game on the weekend?
I thought it was brilliant from Brighton, to be honest with you. I really loved it. It was class for the fans to get that back, you know, with Potter leaving, thinking he can do it big time. I know he had a good start with Chelsea, a good record, but what a way for it to be completely ruined. I thought Brighton looked brilliant. Like James said, the 2 own goals, I mean, what is Loftus-Cheek thinking? What is Loftus-Cheek thinking? And the same with Chalobah. I know he's tried to come in and cut the cross off, but you've got to back your goalkeeper there. Like, Kepa had an amazing game last week, and I just thought he got no help from his defenders this week whatsoever. Second balls, every shot that he stopped, the defence weren't there to pick up the pieces at all. And I thought it was absolutely brilliant from Brighton. In terms of Chelsea, they just looked lacklustre, didn't they? Like you said, like James said, Sterling at right wing back, it's not going to cut it. It's just not going to work. But brilliant week for Brighton, especially after last week's loss. And hopefully they can kick on and maybe, possibly, like Tolu said, get that top 7.
And, you know, Chelsea, they've been poor in form recently. Where do you see them finishing at the end of this season?
It's difficult, you know, because they've got a brilliant squad and a lot of signings over summer. Potter's come in and you think Potter's, you know, he's a good manager. He could push them up the league massively, but for me, I think they're borderline. They're either 5th or 4th. I can't see them pushing, you know, the likes of Spurs, the likes of Liverpool or Arsenal for that 2nd place. So I think for me, it's got to be either 5th or 4th.
So I know the boys have mentioned the whole Raheem Sterling playing at right wing back. I don't know what Potter is thinking. When have we ever seen Raheem Sterling in his career play as a wing back? You know, £67 million, I think it was, signing. You want him up front, you want him scoring the goals for Chelsea, not doing doggies up and down that right hand side. It then brings me on to playing Marc Cucurella at the right-sided centre-back. We know aerially he can't hack it in the Premier League. He needs to be at the right-back, you know, with those defenders that can win the ball. And, you know, he can be the guy that kind of covers the defence rather than has to duel one-on-one with kind of your big strikers, you know, that you've got at Brighton, like your Danny Welbecks, etc. So really, tactically, I thought Graham Potter got it all wrong down at the Amex. And it was a poor showing. I'm sure the Brighton fans, they'll be lapping it up, you know, that they've beat their old manager. And I'm sure throughout the game, I'm pretty sure I heard it, Cucurella was getting absolutely terrored by those Brighton fans.
I actually thought it was great for Conor Gallagher having a good game for Chelsea for arguably the first time this season. It's been a tough start for him in a Chelsea shirt. He's had a red card, really not been able to get involved in that attacking midfield. Arguably been played in the wrong position by Tuchel, but it was good to see him back in his natural habitat. That assist to Havertz was brilliant, a lovely ball from that right hand side. And let's not forget the season he had at Palace. He was brilliant. And I do think that in the future he can be a massive part of this Chelsea side. So I'd say that's the only positive that Chelsea can take away from that performance.
So the next game leads on to the Liverpool game, you know, Leeds away at Anfield. What a game of football.
There are 2 very big smiles in this room, and there's one man with his head firmly in his hands, and that is none other than our very own Tom, because as a Liverpool fan, you'd be fuming. But as a football fan, it's everything you want. You've got Virgil van BACKTRAck crying his eyes out, Jurgen Klopp giving it massive for absolutely no reason, and Marsh doing whatever he was doing with his hands. It was fantastic. I said 2 weeks ago, Crescencio Somerville, he looks like someone who's got a load of energy. He might not have the final product just yet, but to do that in the last minute of a big game, you are looking at someone that might become a real star for Leeds and someone that could really turn their season around. Because it has been tough. Marsh is under a lot of pressure. It's been really difficult being a Leeds supporter this season. But on comes a man, scores a last minute goal. What more could you need from a player?
So somehow you can beat Manchester City, my club, but you're struggling against the so-called lesser sides, your Nottingham Forest, your Leeds. What's your take on it?
It's just frustrating as a Liverpool fan. It seems like we're the most inconsistent team in the world at the moment. Like you said, beat the likes of City, we'll beat the likes of Ajax 3-0 away, and then we come into this game and you're thinking, easy 3 points. I went in same attitude towards the Forest game, and I came into this thinking, at Anfield, we'll batter Leeds. Last year it was 6-0. And I thought it would be the exact same this year, but it's just a terrible result. I mean, when you go 1-0 down that early to an error, realistically, the Anfield crowd's going to get on your back. This year, Liverpool have been getting a lot of stick for their atmosphere, and I'd go as far as to say it's the worst I've witnessed as a Liverpool fan in years. To be honest with you, it's quite a toxic atmosphere currently. And as soon as we went 1-0 down, the whole stadium just turned against the players. And obviously Salah got one back, and we looked like scoring a lot more in the second half, but just couldn't quite cut it. And then, I mean, Somerville, what a finish. Took it early, bottom right, Alisson with absolutely no chance. But I just, at the moment, I can't see where we're going to gain that consistency. We've got those teams whereby we're going to come up against them, it's going to seem like it's going to be an easy win, and they'll just play low block, be hard to break down. And when we've not got that engine in the midfield like we have done in the past 2, 3, 4 years, it's so difficult to come against those teams, because you need that engine in the midfield to win those second balls, to win the headers, to press, and we just don't have that currently. So it's sad as a Liverpool fan, but hopefully next week we can turn up.
Will you get top 4?
I think we do. I think we get third, personally. I think towards the end of the season we'll push on. Like James said, we've had results against City, and obviously we lost against Arsenal and United, but we've still got Spurs, we've still got Chelsea. There's a lot of big games coming up that I would back us in. So I still feel like when we've got Diaz back, Jota's back, that's another thing that people forget. We do have a lot of injuries currently. Keita's still out. The midfield it's really wearing thin. And so once we got those injuries, back to fitness, then I think we'll be absolutely solid for top 4, to be honest.
You were obviously there last night in the Champions League game against Napoli. Did you feel like that 2-0 win kind of got the crowd back on the team's side? Do you think you really needed that to boost your form in the Premier League going on to the weekend?
I do. But once again, for me, Anfield is the greatest stadium in the world. But for 80 minutes of that game, it was poor atmosphere. Again, it felt like a Napoli home game, to be honest with you. That was all you could hear. Speakers were broken. Look at this, man. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely needed. And as much as he gets slated, and opposition seem to use him as their main banter and laughing stock, but Darwin Núñez is becoming a cult hero at Liverpool. That was the loudest chant all evening, was for those 15 minutes that Darwin Núñez was on. Obviously a goal and assist changed the game completely. Núñez, that's all you could hear for 15 minutes. And I honestly feel like he might be the man to reunite this Liverpool fan base and get us pushing back to where we should be, and winning the league, winning the Champions League, getting to those finals, and hopefully that is where we'll be by the end of the season.
There's only one thing that I feel as though I need to say on the camera whilst talking about Liverpool at this moment in time, and that's Jurgen Klopp's 7th season syndrome. And that's me done.
Nice.
So, moving on to the next game, Bournemouth 2, Spurs 3. I mean, what a game. Spurs coming from 2-0 behind after 2 Keith Moore goals. Kane getting the goal, and Bentancur at the end with a pot shot through piles of bodies, realistically. Goalkeeper had absolutely no chance. It was a really brilliant spectacle, gutting for the Bournemouth fans, But for Spurs, a massive, massive 3 points, especially after last week's loss to Newcastle. Conte really, really needed that.
For me, this game is one of these interesting moments in football where you look at a footballing side like under Conte who like to play without the ball. They like to soak up pressure, they like to play on the counter. And it makes you worry as a Spurs fan, I can imagine, because when you go to a place like Bournemouth, they ended up with about 70% possession. Have they got that creative spark when they're playing with a rigid 3-5-2? You're playing almost 4 centre midfielders. Like guys that are deep and hard. You've got Skip, Bentancur, Bissouma, Højbjerg. These guys are not creative footballers. They're there to block people out. And you're looking at Conte and you're thinking, is there a reason that he's not playing, Amora? I know Richarlison and Kulusevski are both out for the game, but you would worry because if they can't break a side down, I mean, obviously they got 3 points, so whether this is the way or not, but if you can't break a side down like that and you make it difficult, conceding 2 goals to a Bournemouth side, I mean, they've been decent under Gary O'Neill, but don't get me wrong, they're not setting the world alight. I know they went on a few unbeaten runs, but if you look at the sides they're playing, beatable teams, then lose Southampton, then they lose to West Ham. It's not really looking great for Spurs in that sense. Are Spurs getting in the top 4?
Spurs, well, obviously on the weekend it showed that Spurs have got a little bit of bite about them. That Antonio Conte side, they can do the dirty work when necessary. They can get their hands dirty, win football games, come from behind. So I like that side of Spurs. I think Manchester City and Arsenal, they're pretty certs at the minute. So then it's between United, Liverpool, Spurs and Chelsea. The probably so-called top 6. As it's looking, I think they'll do it. I think the Champions League form at moment in time is looking great on the road. Obviously last night they got a massive win, sending them through into the round of 16. So on the whole of things, yeah, I think they will do it. I think it's partly down to other sides not being as strong as they were in the past. I think it's been a real let-off for them, because if they played like they were, say, a couple seasons back with the competition that there has been, then we'd probably be saying no. But this season, yes, I think they will get top 4.
Every week, as a player I like to highlight is my man. And every week, it's the same man. And it's that man again this weekend. Miguel Almiron. He is the epitome of a winger. He's fantastic. He works hard off the ball. He picks it up from deep. He can travel with it. He picks his man out. He picks the top corner out every week now. He's an unbelievable footballer. And the way he's been working for Newcastle these last few weeks is going to put him on a pedestal. What's going to get him into the team of the year this year. You heard it here first. Miguel Almiron's getting into the team of the season. If he keeps firing like this, it's a no-brainer. Get the Ballon d'Or out for him for all I care. He's fantastic.
Hey,
but
Jack Grealish seems to disagree.
I was going to say, giving it massive. Grealish doing nothing. He's too busy worrying about his shin pads. But no, on a more serious note, Newcastle, again, fantastic. Eddie Howe has got that team absolutely firing. And you look at the players they've signed. I saw a post, it was Kieran Trippier's brother actually posted about it. That entire back 4 are relatively cheap signings compared to the money that's getting spent elsewhere by these clubs that are on the same level as Newcastle. These are big football clubs with big investors, and they're pushing for the top place in Europe. I'm more than certain now that Newcastle, will be in the top 7. I'll go for now, possibly top 6, possibly top 4. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. But they look fantastic. Villa. It was weird because last week we spoke about this kind of newfound Villa, this real fire in their belly, this desire to go on and fight and get results and pull out, the games that they've been losing, get at least involved with them. But they got absolutely battered. And it wasn't for the lack of football, it was a lack of trying. Newcastle gave more, they worked harder. Look at the Joelinton goal. You got 3 defenders going for a ball. All of them, no one's there giving it passion. They're all just looking at the ball, flaps off one of them, rebound off the keeper, Joelinton goes and scores. Massive result for Newcastle, they keep marching on. Let's see if they can get into Europe.
So it was total domination, wasn't it, really? 4-0 win. And to be honest, for me, that's Newcastle's best display of the season so far. And they just seem to keep getting better and better each time. As James has said, Miguel Almiron, Team of the Year. Team of the Year shouts, definitely. That finish, coming in off that right-hand side, left foot, whip, top bins. It's brilliant. He's doing it every week. 20 shots and 60% possession for Newcastle. It was just total dominance. Villa just looked lacklustre. Absolutely, just entirely different from the performance last week. And hopefully Emery can come in and shuffle things up a little bit more after that. I mean, it's a really tough start. I think the Villa job, as much as people make it out to be a good squad, I think it's a difficult job. I think there are certain high expectations that a lot of Villa fans put on the club, especially with the amount of money that does get spent by the owners at the club. And as much as Emery has done an amazing job at Villarreal last year, and he's obviously been brilliant in Europe, I'm not sure he'll be able to do the same job at Aston Villa, to be honest with you. I feel like it could be one of those jobs where he's in and out within a few months. So yeah, watch out for that. Unai Emery sacked within the next 4 months.
Looking at that Newcastle squad, you know, I think there's a potential for 3 of their players to be in England's starting 11, right? You heard it here first. So obviously with the right back injury, I'm going to throw Kieran Trippier in straight in at right back. Now, England have a goalkeeping crisis in my opinion, and I think that Nick Pope is the man to save England and take them to World Cup glory. Now, the third player you ask, you're thinking, who else could it possibly be? And no, it's not Sean Longstaff. I'm not putting him in centre mid. I'm throwing Callum Wilson up top because that's right. I want England to play a 4-4-2, Brexit football, Harry Kane, Callum Wilson up top. We're winning the World Cup.
I'm very sorry for what he's just said about Nick Pope being the England goalkeeper, because that is the biggest load of tosh I ever heard in my life. He's going there, he kicks the football like he's got a wooden leg, and that's all I need to say about it.
So it was Crystal Palace 1, Southampton 0 at Selhurst Park. Edouard being the goal to separate the two teams there. There wasn't much between the two teams, to be honest with you. The people's favourite, Palace. Vieira seems to be doing a very, very good job there, and there's just something likeable about that Palace squad, isn't there? You know, Eze in there, Zaha, Elise, they've got that exciting charisma to them, that flair, and as much as it wasn't on show against Southampton, as much as they'd like it to be, they still got those 3 points, and it was an important game for them, and hopefully they can continue to push on and maybe get that top 10 place that those Palace fans are really craving. Yeah, City getting the win there, 1-0. Kevin De Bruyne free kick. I mean, what a screamer. What a screamer. We know what he's about. He is arguably the best player in world football currently. For me, still ahead of Haaland. I know he's bagging goals for fun, but in terms of just pure quality and ability, Kevin De Bruyne is just other levels. But disappointing for Leicester. I mean, how long's left for Rodgers now? How long is left? Not very long. But yeah, hopefully Leicester can push on and get out that relegation zone, because otherwise it's looking very, very dangerous.
City, they got the job done again, but I just want to talk about Pep Guardiola, to be honest with you. Like, I know he's bald, but you've not got to make up for it in other ways, like wearing that ridiculous outfit. Like, I mean, I'm all for managers giving it a bit of flair every now and then, but if you're a manager of a professional football team, in my opinion, you turn up in your club colours, you turn up in your suit, or you give it a tracksuit every now and then. You don't go to Leicester away like he's been a night out in the middle of Leicester, some shoddy ripped jeans because of some dodgy D-squared sponsor, and God knows what the jumper was he's wearing.
You're just jealous a 45-year-old man dresses better than you.
He's just jealous.
In that purple.
Don't you dare
shirt.
talk about this. He's just jealous he hasn't got to go to the Belgravia Centre like he does. Dressed like an idiot.
Fresh.
Shut up.
What are you on about? He's so fresh.
No,
Can't wear that as a
bro.
manager. Put your
He's the
suit
best
on.
dressed manager in the Premier
Oh,
League.
don't give me this bollocks.
Pep Guardiola, you're not a child.
I'll acknowledge that.
We'll keep it PC. We'll keep it PC.
You have to just beep it. Just beep it. We'll get demonetised.
Yeah, instantly. We'll have one banging video. Brentford Wolves was one of these games where it took us back to last week, where I spoke about Wolves being in a real predicament about where they're really going at the moment. They've got no real attacking aura or presence to them. They're so static. They don't move the ball. They don't run the channels. They don't really create anything whatsoever. And then you've got your main number 9 going and headbutting someone in the middle of the game. But that wasn't the talking point for me. The talking point for all of us here at Spectate. When did Ben Mee start knocking about with Simone Biles? How's he pulling that one out in the middle of the game? I've not seen Ben Mee move faster than about 3 yards, let alone leaping for a bicycle kick, sticking it away and giving it massive to the fans. A lot of time for it. I think Brentford, again, it's not a bad result for them, but it's not a good result for either side necessarily. When you look at that game, it was a bit boring, bit of give and take. Wolves are too static, that's all I've really got to say.
Brentford Wolves, obviously Mr. Brexit himself with the bicycle kick, as James has already alluded to. But also, let's not forget about Ruben Neves' finish. Outside the box, curling finish. It was beautiful. And I know we spoke on here a couple of weeks ago about if or not Ruben Neves should have moved to a better club. People forget he's only 25 years old. There's 7, 8 years ahead of him in his career.
Everton Fulham, the game was poor. I've not really got much to say. It was boring as anything. I can't even ask Jimmy who scored this week because it was a 0-0. But actually, if I did ask him who scored this week, he probably would have said Mitrovic because he didn't know it was a 0-0. That's all I've got to say on that one.
So the Gooners title charge keeps rolling. You know, Arsenal won 5-0. What a win for them. You know, they're going from strength to strength. Goals coming from all over the pitch. Gabriel Jesus, I think he was man of the match on fantasy anyway. What a performance from him. Odegaard as well, fantastic player, really underrated in my opinion. I remember back in the day when he was 16 years old and he just signed for Real Madrid, and I'm glad to see that finally he's living up to his name.
And that brought on Reece Nelson, who was magic. I mean, genuinely magic. He played with that flair and confidence and that desire of someone who wants to break into that team. Someone who's really going to try and push these guys who are firing away at the top now. And hopefully for him, gets a bit of a run in the side. Obviously a bit of an unfortunate way of getting into the team, but you wouldn't be complaining. 2 goals, got an assist, looked good in front of goal. Top footballer. Jesus was magic once again. Granit Xhaka, we said it before, we'll say it again. He's having the season of his life, and I'm all for it.
So, Granit Xhaka went off injured, as James mentioned, but I thought up until that point, he was absolutely brilliant. Again, last week, we spoke about how Granit Xhaka, there's been a bit of a misconception about where he plays. People consider him to be more of a 4, and in recent years, in that Arsenal system, he has been the defensive midfielder. However, under Arteta, he's been allowed that creativity, you know, to push forward, to have the shots, to be almost that focal point with Odegaard in the Arsenal attack within that midfield. And I thought he had a brilliant game up until that point. Really unfortunate to see him go off. I thought Arsenal were brilliant overall. Thomas Partey, I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding him currently, a lot of uncertainty. But one thing is for certain, that man is a baller. What a finish, and he is looking like that final piece of that Arsenal midfield that they have needed for years. That defensive midfielder that can break the play down, spray the passes, and the technique for some of these long shots he's pulling off is just insane.
And then Sunday evening we saw Ten Hag's Reds get another win. They looked solid. I mean, it was no mesmerising performance. Rashford's 100th goal. Nice to see a bit of Ronaldo-esque there getting up for the header. It was nice to see. Ronaldo once again in the controversy with the whole Neville thing. I feel like he's been a bit hung out to dry, but there's no way that someone of that age and that stature should be acting in this manner. He's just being a bit childish. West Ham, I don't think they'll be disappointed. They didn't look like a bad side. I thought Ben Rama was unreal. I mean, he was first half was all over Dallo was moving the ball around, but then you come into the brick wall. I mean, it's a very little brick wall, but it is a brick wall that is Lisandro Martinez, and he goes and stops him. And I thought again he had a great game. But yeah, overall, United will be happy. West Ham will be happy. For me, I thought Declan Rice was the best player on the pitch. I thought he was fantastic all game. Nearly scored an unbelievable goal as well at the end, but in came Poppadom wrists. Bang, massive save from Dave. Fair play to him as well. United fans are up for it as well. I think that really helps at Old Trafford when the fans are on the side. Everyone's getting involved. They come away with 3 points. They're going to push for top 4. We'll see how it goes.
So, Rashford's 100th goal in a United shirt, and what a header it was. It was brilliant to see him leaping like that. We've not seen that from him in a very, very long time. Now, I know United won, and a lot of United fans were incredibly impressed with the result. But in terms of their manager, for me, Ten Hag just isn't living up to the reputation as to what United fans thought he was going to be. And I have to say, I've seen it coming for a while. Before the season started, I went to go and watch Ajax play. Funnily enough, it was Anthony's final game for the club. And then ended up speaking to an Ajax fan for the entire game, and he was saying how Ten Hag is not what United fans think he wants to, not what United fans think he is. His first season there was brilliant, but after that it was lacklustre. People forget they had really, really poor showings in the Eredivisie, dropping points in a league they really should be absolutely cruising in. And for me, I just don't think he's going to last. Eric, 10 months, I can see him going soon. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the United game. Hopefully they won't make top 4. I think they have got the quality. Do you know what's funny? So you were talking about Martinez. I've seen a conspiracy theory going around at the moment. So Martinez officially is listed as 5'10" on the United website, and people seem to think it's just complete fake, and he's 5'6", but he's too embarrassed to basically come out and say it. And there's a photo of him. If you Google it, there's a photo of him next to Messi. Obviously, Messi's 5'7". There is a hairline between the two of them in terms of height. So Martinez, smallest centre back in the league, can't jump for anything. But yeah, Ten Hag gone in a few months. See ya.
See ya.